last part of our lesson 2 here. There's a lot of components to this. I'm going to kind of ramble a little bit, but I wanted to explain a little bit of these connections in here. We're looking at here, the website connections. Diagnosing is an art. It's, if you think about it in terms of comparing it to the medical field, I would argue it's not all that much different from the medical field. You go see your doctor, they ask you a whole bunch of questions, they gather some information, and then the doctor formulates a theory in terms of what those symptoms are that you're presenting. They may run some tests to confirm or not confirm their suspicions of what you may have, and ultimately they reach a diagnosis. Well, we're doing the same thing with clinical work with regards to what's going on up in someone's head. We've got someone presenting to us as counselors, and they have symptoms. They tell us what's going on. We go through a series of open-ended questions, right? We're going to ask them a lot of open-ended, maybe a few closed-ended questions, some yes or no's that we might want to gather in terms of information from them. And we're going to try to reach some idea, at least in terms of how best to help this person address the issues that they are presenting to us. Now, again, depending on your licensure is whether or not you'll be able to really diagnose someone. But let's assume that that's the case. Here's the deal. I want you to look at these websites, okay? The nctsn.org site. Really great. This is a great little resource. You do not have to, as part of this class anyway, you do not have to complete or view the online learning that's that first web link is looking at. This is actually a trauma-informed IEP, differential diagnosis, and trauma-informed assessment in schools. It's actually a webinar. You would have to register at NCTSN, their little website. It's really simple. It's a free webinar. It's an hour and a half long. If you were interested in doing it, please avail yourself of this. I'll just tell you a little bit about it. So in the webinar, the presenters are going to discuss the trauma-informed assessment that takes place in schools. They're also going to look at looking at differential diagnoses. So they'll walk you through in terms of how someone would go through a differential diagnosis and ultimately arrive at an individualized education plan for a child in a school setting. Granted, this differential diagnosis, the webinar itself, is simply addressing it at a school level. For some of you, that may be really appropriate. You might really, truly benefit by reviewing the webinar. Again, it's a free webinar on this website. You do have to register. It's free. You may be finding some really helpful information by taking a look at this. Hour and a half long. If you're interested in it, please take a look at that. The other one is, let's see if I can find this. Okay, so the other link is the Trauma-Informed Care in Behavioral Health Services. This is lovingly known as Tip 57. If you are not familiar with SAMHSA, S-A-M-H-S-A, called SAMHSA, okay? If you're not familiar with it, get familiar with SAMHSA. SAMHSA is going to give you loads of free information. Tip 57, as you can see there, if you've clicked on that link that I provided, you can order a print copy from SAMHSA. You can click on this and you can see the contents. You can see the link itself is looking at screening and assessment. So I want you to read through this connection. I want you to read through this, and especially taking a look at the trauma-informed care framework in behavioral health services. You'll see where that Chapter 4 screening and assessment fits in. You can also see other chapters that are related to that little what do we call this thing? A pyramid. That's the word I'm looking for. In the pyramid there, and you can read through the rest of this regarding screening and assessment. But this is an assignment. You must read through this. Remember, read through these connections and these web links that I'm giving to you. They are rife with great information that you need to spend some time researching. So let me just talk a little bit about the whole screening and assessment piece. Every organization screens and assesses a little bit differently. Let me address this from a Department of Corrections standpoint. The Department of Corrections in Colorado has a very specific regimen that they will go through when an offender enters the Department of Corrections. They go through what's called the Denver Diagnostic Center, which is in Denver. Obviously, it's lovingly known as DRDC. When an offender enters DRDC, the Denver Reception and Diagnostic Center, they will go through, they'll be evaluated medically, they'll be evaluated by mental health, they'll be evaluated for their educational needs, they'll also be evaluated for their substance use needs. These evaluations will then determine in large measure what programs they may be referred to, what programs they may be required to take, such as drug and alcohol counseling and treatment while they are in the Department of Corrections, if they're given that opportunity. And so then they go off to their main facility, and depending on what programs are offered at their main facility will determine, let's say, for example, educationally, someone doesn't have their high school diploma. They will be referred to GED, and they'll be given typically an opportunity to earn their GED. They may get other jobs as well. They maybe have some other areas that are idealized or identified is the right word to look at those, meeting those needs. So there's some other areas. So again, think in terms of community. If you're currently working in the arena of mental health, think of your own, whether it be a community practice or private practice or school setting or other entity, wherever it may be that you're related to. Think in terms of how your organization screens their clients and then provides assessments for your clients, okay? That's what we do. We then deliver them services, okay? And that's what this particular portion is all about. So go back and look at these web links. If you are interested in that webinar, that's the first web link there. The NCBI link is again going to give you the information on tip 57. Read through this information. For lesson 2, we're at the last slide. We'll get to the discussion topics here in just a minute. Look at this link, this recognizedtrauma.org statistics. Okay, I want you to pull it up right now. If you're not there yet, get there now. This is really critical in terms of understanding things. I'm going to go back again to something I've stated already. We are engaged as counselors in this field, and if you're still working on becoming a counselor, then kudos to you. You keep working on it, because our objective is to make a difference in the lives of other people. We want to improve our communities. We want to improve the world that we live in. And when you look at these statistics, and I'm not sure that any of you will really be all surprised by this when you look at these. If you're at the link, so let me tell you a little bit about this. Recognize trauma, change a child's future. We are in this field to help people, right? And who better to help than children? Now, the statistics here, you can look at this link. Statistics, 60% of adults report experiencing abuse or other difficult family circumstances during childhood. 26% of children in the U.S. witness or experience a traumatic event before they turn 4 years of age. 4 out of every 10 children in America say they've experienced a physical assault during the past year, with 1 in 10 receiving an assault-related injury. Now, I'm going to let you go through the rest of these. These statistics, well, I'm going to make a statement here. I think they're appalling. If you, as you continue to develop in your field of expertise, as you continue to build your career in this field, figure out where you fit. Look at these statistics and figure out the talents and the skills that you have to make a difference in the world that we live in. That's what this is all about. Sometimes we're drawn to this field because we've experienced trauma ourselves and we've overcome, or we're still overcoming. I will probably say to this statement to you more than one time during the course of this class. I am asked from time to time, why am I in this field? And I tell my clients all the time, I say the person that has benefited the most from me choosing to work in this field is me. I have learned so much about myself. I have learned skills, tools, techniques of dealing with my own stress, my own life issues, the issues I deal with today. I have benefited the most from this, and I then therefore want to take this and teach these things or have an opportunity to help other people in these areas as well, so that they can live happier, more fulfilling lives, perhaps maybe so that they can stop the cycle of violence and trauma in their lives and their families' lives. So look at this mental health connection of Tarrant County. Just so FYI, Tarrant County is in Texas. There's some studies they did some years ago, and this is a great website just for information. You can look through this and gain, again, a better understanding of how trauma affects other people, all right? So enough said on that. Now, let me focus here. We're going to get to the discussion topics. We covered these at the beginning of the lesson, and we're going to cover them here again. So the discussion topics for this week, for this lesson, discuss how someone who experiences trauma may wind up with a mental health diagnosis and or abuse or become addicted to substances, whether they're legal or illegal. Okay, so talk about that. Again, I'm interested in your opinion, interested in what you think about these things. The next topic that you have to answer, after reviewing the reading assignments, talk about at least one of the trauma disorders that we discussed and your opinion on how it affects someone with that diagnosis. All right? So there are your discussion boards for lesson number 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Look forward very much so to reading your posts on these discussion topics, and I will definitely be weighing in with some of my feedback to you on those as well. Thanks.